Push. Engine arm is dead. Okay, I'm going to get the pro. 99. Proceeded. 3, 2, 1.
In 1969, millions of people huddled around television sets as the first humans set foot on the moon. The image of the crescent Earth rising over a pale, gray lunar landscape was burned into the consciousness of people all over the world, and for the first time, we began to see the Earth as a global community. Suddenly, sky was the limit, and a new generation of artists and architects began to find new art forms that would define the aesthetic standards for future generations. In preparation for the moonshot, portable video technology was developed and became widely available to everyone, thereby empowering the creativity of young multimedia artists and their collaborators. The Sony Portapak. As this new network of artists began to develop, a revolutionary cultural zeitgeist emerged, spearheading the documentation of the rebellion of the 1970s status quo. One such group became known as Environmental Communications. Environmental Communications, EC, was a group of photographers, artists, and architects who focused their attention on art and architecture and awakened a new appreciation for our environment. EC documented the streets of America through the sunroof of the EC Media Van that provided an unobstructed view of the new and emerging cultural art forms. An imaginative annual magazine featuring slide sets and videotapes became the EC Catalog. These catalogs were sent to universities, institutions, and libraries throughout the world. During these pre-internet times, the EC catalogs became a platform that reached a global audience. Although EC was based in Venice, California, it became the crossroads for a network of emerging media artists. Other media groups quickly joined the network and added their works to the expanding list of fascinating titles. As roads were built and suburbs were created, people began to experience the environment from their cars. Street artists could now communicate to a countless number of people on a daily basis. Art broke out of the confines of the museum walls and found itself on the walls of city streets. Street paintings, super graphics, murals. Buildings became the new canvases, and new forms of personal art flourished in the urban environment with graffiti. These powerful influences from the 1970s continue today. The architecture of the 1970s reflected the unique identity of the times. Inflatable structures, domes, pop architecture. People built homes that were portable, temporary, and movable, such as tree houses and converted school buses. New ways of living were explored, and communes sprang up all across the country. The architect Paolo Soleri built extraordinary types of communal architecture in his Cosanti and Arcosanti visions of utopia. He created a unique type of architecture that revealed how human ecology and the protection of our natural environment would influence city environments of the future. At the other end of the cultural spectrum, famous architects were also fashioning new and imaginative visions. The great American architect Frank Lloyd Wright dropped a giant upside-down concrete spiral on a street corner in the middle of Manhattan, the Guggenheim Museum. Halfway across the globe, a then little-known architect from Denmark, Jørgen Utzon, won the competition to build the Sydney Opera House. At first, engineers were stymied as they didn't know how to build such a structure. $100 million later, The building became a proud cultural icon. At about this same time, Frank Gehry was beginning his career in Venice, California. When Gehry was asked to design the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, they asked him to make it look a little bit like the Sydney Opera House. He replied, "I'll do my best." The world began to acknowledge the importance of environmental communications with the advent of 4 international retrospective exhibits featuring multimedia images from the EC archives. The Getty Research Institute has recognized the historical significance of this extraordinary collection of works from over 250 media artists. They have expressed a desire to acquire the entire archive for the benefit of future generations.